Welcome back, everybody. Today is Saturday, October 31st. We are just 3 days away now from the elections taking place on November the 3rd. Obviously, this is basically it. This is going to be one of our last presidential election prediction videos. It may indeed actually be the last one, as I will be traveling the next several days, and we'll see if we're able to put one out, but we'll soon find out. Regardless, here's what we're going to do today in this video. What we're going to do is in all 50 states, we are going to make not only a projection of who wins, but a projection of what the actual percentages are going to be. Now, obviously, we're not going to get maybe even any of these exactly right because we're talking tenths of a percent here. But in all 50, based on all the data we have, based on everything we know up to this point, and everything that we've talked about and outlined for you over the course of this election season on this channel, that is what we're going to do. So let's begin in the state of Hawaii. This is obviously one of the biggest liberal bastions in the country, one of the most left-wing states in the United States of America. Of course, before David Ige, there was a Republican governor in recent memory, but we've seen over time how more Democratic states are genuinely and generally more willing to elect moderate Republicans than the other way around. We haven't seen too many instances of Republican states, at least in recent memory, that elect Democrats, because in 2018 a lot of them were purged. In Indiana, Missouri, North Dakota, some senators were defeated. We still have Joe Manchin in West Virginia, as well as a Democratic governor in Kentucky, a Democratic governor in Louisiana, even one in Kansas. But by and large, Democratic states like Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Maryland will elect moderate Republicans more than the other way around. And obviously in this election, Donald Trump is no moderate, and in a presidential election, Hawaii would never go red. So I think this is going to be an absolutely lopsided affair. I'm going to say 73% to 27%, just a complete wipeout for Joe Biden, making this safe. Now, in the state of Alaska, we've seen the polls here narrow some, as well as on the senatorial level between Al Gross and Dan Sullivan. I'll put it to you this way. 5-6 months ago, Al Gross was kind of, Al Gross, of course, is the independent running in this race, though he will be caucusing with the Democrats. Even though he's an independent, should he win, that would be a flip in the Senate. 6 months ago, I would have said, okay, he's kind of an interesting candidate. He's an independent, this and that, but it would genuinely be a shock if he were to actually win. Now it wouldn't be a shock. I would say it would be a mild surprise should he win. The Democrats have a number of very good opportunities to make flips in the Senate this year. Arizona, Colorado, Montana, Kansas, Iowa, North Carolina, South Carolina, Maine, 2 seats in Georgia, okay? And then there's even Texas, which is a pretty close race as well. Only now am I getting over here to Alaska, okay? So Al Gross, I think, has a chance here. We've seen the polls narrow here. On both the presidential and senatorial level. I think Republicans are sometimes I think both parties, if this makes any sense, could be a little understated here because it's a very hard state to pull. Mark Begich, we know the whole story. Democrats can win in this state. We know this. Okay, so it's a tough state for Democrats to win in, but they can. I'm going to say Donald Trump carries this state 56 to 44, which is good for a likely margin. These are all margin characterizations, by the way. Again, anything less than 5% is a tilt margin. 5 to 10% is lean. 10 to 15 is likely. Anything above 15 is safe. Okay? So let's get into Washington. Another big liberal bastion. Went to Hillary Clinton by a big margin in 2016. Maria Cantwell, Patty Murray, easily winning re-elections in recent memory. Jay Inslee is up for re-election, the governor who briefly ran for president. He is a big proponent of climate change. That's his big issue. And here's the thing that's interesting about him and in the state of Washington. We have seen almost a direct parallel of some of the things we've seen between Joe Biden and Jay Inslee on climate change. Joe Biden appears to have really kind of not stolen, but just kind of copied some of those policy ideas from Jay Inslee, and just clearly appears to subscribe to them. So you can bet that voters in the state of Washington are going to really, really come out and vote for Joe Biden in big numbers. I'm going to say this is another, in a big Democratic wave here, I'm going to say this is another just complete wipeout. I'm going to say 63% to 37% for Joe Biden in the state of Washington, which is easily a safe state. Oregon, it's kind of along the same lines. Now, Oregon is a little bit more of a conservative state than Washington. We've seen over the years how, remember, look, in recent memory, within the last 20 years, there have been Republican senators, okay, from the state of Oregon. And it's a state that I think sometimes the Republican Party thinks they can, be competitive in if they have the exact right candidate and are going against the exact wrong incumbent for the Democrats. Okay, Hillary Clinton took this state 50.1% to 39.1%. Okay, so that's a 10-point win, but only 50% of the vote. She got just barely over 1 million votes here. That's not going to happen this time. We know Joe Biden is going to run up the score a little bit here. I'm going to say Joe Biden himself gets about 57% of the vote here. This is a state that has a history of voting for third-party candidates. Gary Johnson got almost 5% of the vote here. So I think he'll get 57%, Joe Biden, but I don't think Donald Trump is going to get 43%, all remaining 43%. It'll be 57 to like 38%, and then Howie Hawkins, Joe Jorgensen, maybe some write-ins or whatever will get the remaining share. Oregon easily goes the Democratic Party's way. Now in California, another state that was a complete wipeout, Donald Trump did not hardly performed well at all in this state. He did get 4.5 million votes here, just a little bit under that, but that's only good for 31.5%. Okay? To me, this is a state that I think we're going to see just an absolute cataclysmic amount of voting for Joe Biden. The popular vote numbers are going to be ridiculous because of this state, I think. I expect Joe Biden to get 66% of the vote here. Again, can I really see Donald Trump even, why should we expect Donald Trump to increase his vote share from last time, right? So I think Joe Biden outperforms Hillary, gets 66%. A lot of Republicans in California, I think, just stay home this time. So I'm going to say 66% to about 29 to 30%, somewhere in there like 29.5%. And then the rest are just some write-ins. Easily another safe state. Okay, now in Nevada, interestingly enough, this was a pretty close state 4 years ago. Hillary Clinton won it by 2.4%. Okay, only 27,000 votes was the final result here. Hillary Clinton won 2 counties in the state of Nevada. They're the counties that belong to Reno and Las Vegas. Okay, now polling has been consistent for Joe Biden in this state, as we know. We also know that Republicans are often way overstated in this state. And a general rule of thumb, I think for all of you guys watching, is if Hillary Clinton won the state, Joe Biden's going to win the state. Okay? Hillary Clinton is a deeply unpopular politician from both sides. So if she was able to win a state that is pretty competitive, you can expect Joe Biden will, especially when Joe Biden has actually been leading in the polls, which some Democrats don't often do and usually end up winning anyway. So I'm going to say Joe Biden carries 54% of the vote to Donald Trump's 46% of the vote. That's an increase of 6 percentage points, 54 to 46. That is a lean win in the state of Nevada, and it's 6 electoral votes for Joe Biden. Okay, in the state of Idaho, this was like hardly even worth mentioning 4 years ago. Hillary Clinton didn't even get 200,000 votes here. She got 27.5% of the vote here. Now, we have seen a couple races, some statewide races in Idaho where a Democrat can get 35% of the vote, something like that. I think it'll definitely be closer than that this time because Joe Biden is just a more popular figure, again, than Hillary Clinton, and Donald Trump is just so disliked around this country by the majority of voters. And so in Idaho, I would expect Donald Trump to still easily win this state. But again, another state with a big third-party representation. Donald Trump only got 59% of the vote here, despite Hillary Clinton only carrying 27% of the remaining vote, okay? So I would expect Donald Trump to get about 60% again. I don't expect Joe Biden to get all remaining 40%, but he'll definitely get over 30%, unlike Hillary did. I would expect Biden to get around 32% of the vote, and the rest, again, are write-ins. That's safe for Trump. Utah, okay? We've talked about the final margins here being interesting. Hillary Clinton basically got the same vote share in this state that she did in Idaho, only getting 27.2%. But Donald Trump didn't even get 50% here, okay? He only won it with 45%. Didn't even come close to getting 50% of the vote in this state, which is fascinating to me. Evan McMullin got 21.3% of the vote 4 years ago. He has endorsed Joe Biden. Mitt Romney has said that he did not vote for Donald Trump. The Democrats picked up a House seat in the Salt Lake City area. Ben McAdams, he is expected to retain that seat. So, Donald Trump, even if he's able to, I don't think he's expanded his base really in this state. I'm going to say he gets around the same share of the vote. 46%, maybe 47. I'll kind of creep it up for him by 2%. I think Joe Biden gets 32%, 33%, very similar to Idaho. So that's only a likely characterization. Now in Arizona, 4 years ago, Donald Trump won it by about 3.5% over Hillary Clinton, 48.1% to 44.6%. You're starting to get into the area of the country where Gary Johnson was most well known and most popular. He got 4.1% over 100,000 votes in the state of Arizona. Now, in this state, obviously, it has shifted pretty far to the left in recent years. Martha McSally lost a Senate seat 2 years ago for the Republicans, picked up by the Democrats led by Kyrsten Sinema. Martha McSally is on track to lose again, this time to Mark Kelly. There are also now more Democrats from the U.S. House from Arizona than there are Republicans. Joe Biden is expected to win this state. I think Donald Trump's base has eroded in this state. He got 48.1% last time. I think that dips down to about 46%, not a precipitous fall, but from 1,252,000 and change 4 years ago, I think that drops a little. Well, it could go up just because turnout is so high, but the vote share to me drops to about 46%. I have Joe Biden carrying the state of Arizona 54% to 46%, right around the same lines, maybe a point or two difference is the Senate race. That is what a lean Democrat state, and there's 11 votes for Joe Biden. Fascinating state here. Let's go up to Montana. Donald Trump carried the state 55.6% to Hillary Clinton's 35.4%. So right away, you could tell in comparison to these other states in this part of the country, Utah and Idaho, a Democrat can have a far better showing in Montana. Hillary Clinton got 35%. Not, even that respectable, but at least it's like a little bit more than one out of every three. It's what? One out of every three votes. So now the polls have narrowed up considerably. Remember, Barack Obama and Joe Biden got 46% of the vote in the state of Montana in 2008. There's an extremely close Senate race here between the incumbent Democratic governor, Steve Bullock, and the incumbent Republican Senator, Steve Daines. The Republicans are finally on track to win back the governorship in this state. They have not had a Republican governor since 2000. Think about that, okay? There's a long history of Democrats winning in the state of Montana. Max Baucus, John Tester won re-election 2 years ago, okay? Now the Democrats are vying for that other Senate seat. I would not be surprised if Steve Bullock wins, though I think Daines is just narrowly favored. There's also a very competitive House race that I actually think Kathleen Williams, a Democrat, is favored in. We've seen a narrowing of the polls here. I think Joe Biden gets over 40%. I have him getting around 43% of the vote in the state of Montana. I do think that Donald Trump will mostly consolidate the rest of that vote share because it's only 57%. Maybe he'll get 55, 56%, basically all of it. But the other reason is there's so much going on in the statewide races here between the governor's race, the Senate race, the House race. That, to me, boosts turnout. It boosts Republican turnout, in which the presidential statewide races in Montana always go red. So I have it as about 56 to 43 with 1% as a ride, and that's a 13-point win, which is a likely margin for Donald Trump. Whoops, that's safe. There we go. State of Wyoming, not even really anything to talk about. Hillary Clinton got 21.9% of the vote here. Okay, that's comically low. She won one county in the state. That's Teton County. There are only 18 precincts. Barely over 10,000 votes were cast, okay, in that county. So there's really no reason to expect that Joe Biden would even outperform Hillary Clinton here. Let's say, just for giggles, that Joe Biden does, I don't know, maybe he does fractionally better because this is a Democratic wave here with an unpopular incumbent. But I still think Donald Trump gets 67% of the vote here to Joe Biden's 30% with some write-ins. That's easily safe. Colorado, still considered a swing state by a lot of prognosticators. Hillary Clinton won this state with a plurality 4 years ago, 48.2 to 43.3 with a margin of about 136,000 votes. Now, the Democrats are going to outperform that. I expect Joe Biden fully to reach 50% in this state. Why is that? Because this state has shifted to the left over the years. The Democrats proved that when they elected a new Democratic governor to replace outgoing Governor John Hickenlooper, and that new governor, Jared Polis, is to the left of John Hickenlooper. So that's a full cosign on that idea. Pardon me, I really have to sneeze at the moment, so if you hear a loud, explosion of gunk emanating from my nostrils, just bear with me here. So 48.2% to 43.3% is what we saw 4 years ago. I expect that Senate race to boost turnout further. Extremely unpopular incumbent president, extremely unpopular incumbent GOP senator. To me, Joe Biden really kind of runs up the score in this state. I have him winning 55 to 44. Okay, to me, that's a big win for him. 55 to 44, and again, a little bit of a write-in wiggle room there. That is an 11-point margin. That's a likely characterization. But again, as just as far as the likelihood characterizations go, that would be safe. New Mexico is kind of the same. We're kind of in the same boat here. Another state that Hillary Clinton only won with a plurality. Donald Trump only got an even 40% of the vote here to Hillary Clinton's 48.3% of the vote here. It was a margin of about 76,000 votes. Or 66,000 votes, I beg your pardon, 66,000 votes. I, again, expect Joe Biden to eclipse 50%. The Hispanic population, as we know in this country, is not a fan of Donald Trump by and large. And in New Mexico, that's, a lot of Hispanics live down there. We understand that. There's an open Senate race here helping boost turnout. We've seen some very high early turnout numbers here. Another state that was very kind to the Democrats in the 2018 midterms when they picked up one of their 7 governorships in this state. So I expect Joe Biden again to eclipse 50%, very similar to me to Colorado. I have him winning 54% to 38%. I'm going to drop Donald Trump's vote share and then plenty of write-ins. We might even get some more third-party votes. Remember, this was Gary Johnson's state. He got 9% of the vote here. Okay, so that to me, what is that, 54, 30? So that's a 16-point margin. Therefore, it is safe. Let's go up to North Dakota, another state in which Hillary Clinton didn't even reach 30% of the vote. 216,794 for Donald Trump, only 93,758. Hillary Clinton carried just 2 counties, one of which was a border county with Canada, for crying out loud. Okay, so since then, obviously we saw a far closer race in the 2018 midterms, but the Republicans still won it pretty easily when Kevin Cramer defeated Heidi Heitkamp for a pickup for the Republicans in the U.S. Senate. I think that we're going to see something a little closer to that, but I still don't expect Joe Biden to reach 44% of the vote in this state. I'm going to say this. I still think Donald Trump carries about the same percentage of the vote, probably around 61 to 62% instead of 63. But Joe Biden, I will give him this. I'll give him like 34%, 35%. Not close, but far better than Hillary Clinton. That is safe for Donald Trump. In the state of South Dakota, a little bit better for Hillary Clinton in this state, 61.5 to 31.7. South Dakota has a bigger history of electing Democrats. Tim Johnson, we know the whole thing there. Kristi Noem had a very close race against Bill Sutton, in the most recent gubernatorial race there. North Dakota, of course, has a history of electing Democrats as well between Ken Conrad and the aforementioned Heidi Heitkamp. To me, this is a state that you're going to see a big difference in, okay? Because I think Donald Trump is going to get less than 60% of the vote here. We've seen some very poor approval ratings for him here. I think he'll get under 60%. I'm going to give him about 57%, and I'm going to say Joe Biden really outperforms Hillary Clinton here. Okay, 57% to 37%. That's a 6-point increase from what we saw from Hillary Clinton. Now, obviously, that leaves quite a piece of the share left. I think that leaves 6% and change of the vote share left. To me, there are going to be plenty of write-ins in this state. I think you have a lot of Republicans in this state that are not thrilled with Trump, but wouldn't ever vote for a Democrat. So you're going to get write-ins. You're going to see people stay home. I have this as a big narrowing up, 57 to 37, but that's obviously still a safe state. Nebraska. Hillary Clinton kind of, to me, exceeded expectations a little bit in this state. Trump got 58.7 to Hillary's 33.7. Of course, that in large part is due to just the two somewhat urban areas here between Omaha and Lincoln. I think by and large, you're going to see kind of the same thing here. There's another Senate race here. Ben Sasse is not in a competitive race against his opponent. I just can't see this needle moving in any real direction. I'm going to say it's basically going to be about the same, 58.7 to 33.7. Joe Biden will probably get more total votes than Hillary did because this is a big wave year, and we understand that. Maybe he'll get a couple tenths of a point higher, but to me, it's right around the same. Now, Kansas is interesting, okay, because Hillary Clinton got 35% of the vote here, again, despite winning just 2 counties, Douglas County and then Wyandotte County. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right on the border with Missouri. Okay, just 2 counties in the entire state, which was still good for 35% of the vote in total. I expect Joe Biden to outperform those numbers a little bit because there's a very competitive Senate race here between Barbara Bollier and Roger Marshall. We saw in the 2018 midterms the Democrats picked up a governorship here in a somewhat surprising result. And, Chris Kobach, I think, has alienated some GOP voters here. Okay, Barbara Bollier is a former Republican, a state senator. She's one of the only Democrats, I think, that would have a chance of winning in this state. So I have to give Donald Trump a little bit of a heads up here because he only got 56.2% here. Gary Johnson was a big write-in here, over 55,000 votes. I guess that wasn't a write-in at the end of the day, but you get the point. So at this point, I would expect Joe Biden's numbers to exceed that a little bit. We've seen these voters are willing to elect Democrats to statewide office with Laura Kelly. I don't expect them to, but it's possible they could with Barbara Bollier. So I'm going to say Donald Trump hangs out around the same at 56.2%, but I don't think there are going to be as many write-ins, and I think Joe Biden gets 39% of the vote here, just under 40%, maybe like 39.7% of the vote here, which is respectable, I would say, for a Democrat in the state of Kansas. That is still a safe characterization. Oklahoma, every single county in the whole state won for Donald Trump, 65.3 to 28.9. We have no evidence really to suggest that this state has narrowed in any way, shape, or form. The Democrats do have one representative here in the House from the Oklahoma City area. I expect them to lose that seat, okay? The Republicans, I think, would be thrilled if they were able to flip 3 House seats on election night. In fact, right now, if I had to guess, I would imagine the Democrats are actually going to be able to expand their majority, flip 2, maybe 3, if they really have a good night, maybe 5 House seats. Okay, this is one that the Republicans are hoping to flip. So I think this will be about the same, maybe because, again, Democratic wave, your unpopular incumbent, Joe Biden, creeps up to around 30%, but not that big a deal. I'm going to still say about 66% to 30% with some write-in factor there. That's easily a safe state. Okay, Texas. 52.2% for Donald Trump to 43.2% for Hillary Clinton. Okay, that's a 9-point win exactly for Donald Trump. On election night, he led by 12 points and ended up winning by 9. Okay, the final averages had him leading by 12, won by 9, so there was a shift. The polling in this state has been close, and it's been close all election season. Okay, it has never not been pretty darn tight in this state. Okay, now what we saw in 2018 was a further narrowing up when Beto O'Rourke got 48.3% of the vote. I expect it to be kind of around the same lines here. Okay, Dallas, Austin, Houston, San Antonio, El Paso, Corpus Christi. Those are the areas where if Joe Biden's going to have a chance here, he has to absolutely blow away the numbers in those urban areas. Now, we've seen absolutely shattering turnout in early voting in this state. I told you this the other day. I have to mention it again. Over 100% of the total amount of votes that were cast in the state of Texas 4 years ago have already been cast. Today's the last day of early voting in Texas, and we still have Tuesday, where millions more votes are going to be cast. Turnout in Texas has been astronomically high, okay? And the Democrats have been devoting resources into this state. They sent Kamala Harris down there. Tom Perez is on his way down there for the weekend, just for a last push in this state. Joe Biden can win the state of Texas. He can, okay? And I think Donald Trump is in dire trouble, not just nationally, as this map is already showing here, but I think he has a real possibility of losing these 38 electoral votes, and what an embarrassment that would be for the GOP. in only 4 years to lose these, the state that basically gives them a chance to compete with New York and California, right? So I still think that Donald Trump is going to barely squeak this out. I'm going to say 51.4% to 48.6%. Okay? I think write ins and third party candidates are going to be very low here. Okay? We know that the Texas Democratic Party is one of the largest in the country of any party. It's a very well run state party. This is where I'm from. Okay? I'm from Texas, born and raised in Dallas. I've been, in the center of a lot of these, between both parties and the whole dynamic. I'm here to tell you, it's not a partisan thing. The Democratic Party in the state of Texas outperforms the Republican Party in that they do better despite usually, being in the minority in total. Okay, they do better work in this state than the Republican Party does. We've mentioned at length about the South Dakota Democratic Party, but the Texas Democratic Party is always one that we need to watch. And this election, they really have a chance to do that. But I'm still going to say tilt Republican again, 51.4% to 48.6%. I think we are going to count these votes for hours. We won't know for some time. All right, Minnesota. Pretty close state. Hillary Clinton only won it by 1.5%. 46.4%, that's quite a plurality there. 46.4 to 44.9 with write-ins. Okay, this has gotten away from Donald Trump and the GOP. I think that Joe Biden eclipses 50% in the state of Minnesota. I know that Trump, quote unquote, boldly claimed he was going to win Minnesota. I have news for him and for everyone else. He is not. Okay, he will not win Minnesota. That much is very obvious to everybody based on the data. Again, a state Hillary Clinton won. I'm not really sure why we shouldn't expect the Republicans to win. Why should we expect the Republicans to win, rather, when everything that happened in 2018 is there for evidence for us, and when the Democrats swept the midterms, both Senate seats and the governorship went their way, and everything that we've seen in Minneapolis over the last year is only going to boost turnout for the Democrats. I expect Joe Biden to really outperform Hillary Clinton here. I have Joe Biden winning with 54% of the vote to Donald Trump's 40% of the vote. Okay, that leaves what, 6% of the vote uncounted. But I think his support in this state is extremely low. And I think Joe Biden's has definitely grown from Hillary Clinton. That's a 14% win, which is just under safe and likely. Now, Iowa. A state that Donald Trump really blew it away here. Hillary Clinton only got 41.7% of the vote here. It was 9.4% was the margin of victory for Donald Trump here. 147,000 votes. There is a Senate race in this state that has narrowed up considerably. Teresa Greenfield has a very small lead over Joni Ernst. That's going to be a nail-biter on election night. The Democrats are extremely hopeful they can flip it. The Republicans still maintain that Joni Ernst is on track to win another 6 years. We shall see. There was a narrowing up in this state, of course, in the gubernatorial race when Kim Reynolds, the incumbent Republican governor, was challenged and pretty aggressively and well by the Democrat Fred Hubbell. Fred Hubbell got about 47% of the vote for a significant narrowing up, but the Republicans still won. I expect another narrowing up in this state. I expect Joe Biden to get 48% here. Okay, again, another state. These are the kind of states that Donald Trump's support has just eroded completely in. He is not a popular incumbent, guys. He just isn't. Okay, and in farmlands and flyover country, they're going to vote Republicans, in general, but it doesn't mean that they have to by a certain margin. So I expect this to be like 51.5% to 48%. I don't think we ever reach a point where we really think Joe Biden will actually end up winning it. I definitely would be a little surprised if he won the state of Iowa, Joe Biden, but it's not impossible. Okay, so this to me is a tilt Republican state at the moment. Now, in Missouri, this state has also just completely shifted away from the Democrats. Barack Obama and Joe Biden lost Missouri by just 4,000 votes in 2008. Okay, it definitely shifted rightward in 2012, and then in 2016, it wasn't even close, 56.4 to 37.9. Okay, Hillary Clinton still managed to get over 1 million votes, but most of that just came from the city of St. Louis, where she ran up the score there in St. Louis County, and then in Jackson County, of course, where Kansas City is, and then Columbia, right in the middle of the state. as well with Boone County. I, again, expect a narrowing up here. Polling has actually been interesting here in this state. It's been close. Like 5 to 7%. There is a governor's race here. Mike Parson, though, is on his way to re-election in the state after he recovered from COVID-19. I would expect another state where Joe Biden or Donald Trump's popularity has dropped. I think you're going to get a lot of voters that don't vote for him and just either don't vote at all or vote in third party. So that means that I think both candidates' totals are a little low. I would expect Trump to get about 53% of the vote to Joe Biden's like 42%, something like that. So it narrows, but it's still an 11-point victory, which is likely. Now, in Arkansas, this has become such a safe Republican state. Hillary Clinton got only 33.7%. There were a couple kind of outlier polls that showed Joe Biden within range of actually taking the lead in the state. That's ridiculous. He has no chance of winning here. Tom Cotton and John Boozman are not that moderate, part of the Republican Party in the Senate. They're pretty far to the right on a lot of issues. And so I think, maybe Joe Biden gets a little bit further up the ladder, but not enough. I'm going to say like 59% to, let's say, 36%, somewhere in there. Now, in Louisiana, I actually think this is a state that is interesting to watch because Hillary Clinton got 38.4%. Definitely a bigger presence for the Democratic Party in the state of Louisiana. There is a Senate race here, but the Democrats only very recently even named a candidate to challenge Bill Cassidy, who also has recovered from coronavirus. Again, high African American population in this state. To me, that is key because those voters are going to be very active in this election, and they're going to be a very consistent voting bloc for Joe Biden. I expect him to get over 40%. I'm going to say 55 to about 43% with 2% unaccounted for. That is a likely characterization for Donald Trump. Mississippi, Hillary Clinton got 40.1% of the vote. So that to me is kind of notable because she really has no business even being competitive in this state. Democratic candidates in this state, if they're African American, they're going to do well because voters in this state, Democratic voters are very drawn to those candidates, as we're seeing now with Mike Espy, who's now in his second, he's giving it a second try against Cindy Hyde-Smith here in the Senate. Joe Biden's popular with the African American community. We know that. He's popular in the South. And again, as I just said, we can expect voter turnout amongst the black community to be very high. I expect Donald Trump's number to drop from 57.9 down to about 54%. And I think Joe Biden takes most of the rest of it. Okay, 57 to about, I'm going to say 45%. Okay, so that gets it down to within 12%. And I would expect the Democrats to begin thinking about this state kind of in the long term because the margins have gotten closer over the years. And I think as more and more people move down to the Sunbelt regions, this state could become interesting for them, and maybe they get one statewide office holder before too long. So I have 57 to 45. That is still a likely characterization. Alabama, Hillary Clinton did far worse. This is a redder state, even though there's a Democratic senator here, as we know, but those were some very special circumstances. Donald Trump got 62.1% to Hillary Clinton's 34.4%. That is not a very close race at all. I expect the Democrats to get around the same percentage of the vote here. Joe Biden will probably get a little bit higher, like 37% of the vote. I know I just contradicted myself. Donald Trump will get like, maybe his drops a little bit again, just amongst the African-American community. Let's say 60% though, to about 37%. So a fractional narrowing up. Not that big a deal though. Okay, Florida. Donald Trump won it with a plurality and by only 1.2% of the vote. Hillary Clinton got 47.4%, as we know. Lost by 112,000 votes. So, in the midterms, as we know, the Republicans were able to pull this out. They won the Senate race here, they won the governor's race here. Both very close elections. The final margins in both of those races was a combined less than 35,000 votes. Okay? This was a state in which Joe Biden won both times. Okay? The Democrats, under Hillary Clinton, when she got 47.4%, only won 9 counties in the entire state. 9 counties in the entire state. Duval County, which is home to Jacksonville, actually went to Donald Trump. It's a very white county, so that's why it was strange to me that actually in the midterms, Duval County very strangely voted for Rick Scott in the Senate race, but voted for Andrew Gillum in the governor's race. So to me, that was surprising. I'm not sure why that happened. I guess we'll never really know, but whatever. polling has been very tight here. This is a state where polling is usually a little inaccurate, okay, but usually within the margin of error. So does that really mean it's inaccurate? Turnout has been high in early voting here. Both candidates have been campaigning here a lot. More so Joe Biden, though. Okay, his campaign has been down here in the state of Florida, where I am now in Miami, pretty actively. Okay, and Barack Obama was down here in Miami stumping for Biden last week. So I expect this to be one of the flips of the evening that basically puts this out of reach for Donald Trump. It'll be super, super close. I can't really say, though, that he reaches 50%. I think he will get Joe Biden about 49.6%, just under halfway. I'm going to say 49.6% of the vote to Donald Trump's 47.4%. That's about a 2-point win for Joe Biden. That's about right in line with where the polling is right now, with where the turnout numbers that we've seen are right now. And again, a very conservative estimate based on the passage of Amendment 4 2 years ago is that at least 42,000 new voters will be voting Democratic as well. Remember, that projection we made was literally projecting just certain Democratic voters. We took 8% of the 1.4 million that are expected to actually be able to vote, took about 6% of them, and just divided those up into figures. Okay, either they won't vote at all or they'll vote for Donald Trump. But we very conservatively said that's 40,000 new votes, 42,000 and change for Joe Biden. I think that is going to help him put this over the top. You're going to see a big turnout operation, I think, in Miami-Dade, in Broward County as well. I think Duval County this time around goes for Joe Biden. To me, that is going to be a win for the Democrats. Now, in Georgia, Hillary Clinton got 45.3% of the vote here. There are 2 Senate races going on. Both of which are extremely competitive. One, the Democrats are the outright favorites in. That's Raphael Warnock in the special election. Jon Ossoff is practically tied now with David Perdue, who recently balked at the final Georgia Senate debate that was supposed to take place, I forget which day, but either a day ago or today or tomorrow, right around this weekend. In our presidential election prediction videos, have predicted that Joe Biden will actually carry the state of Georgia. This state is super close. Joe Biden is right there on the cusp of actually taking this for the Democrats. We've seen this is another state where African-American turnout is going to be super, super high. In Atlanta, the suburbs of Atlanta, Athens, Augusta, Macon, Savannah, Columbus, very high turnout expected for the Democratic Party. I fully expect them to get one of the 2 Senate seats, and maybe not both, but at least one of them. Right now, I would expect Joe Biden to also carry this with about a plurality, about 48.9% of the vote, let's say, to 48% of the vote for Donald Trump. That's less than 1%. I have Joe Biden carrying the state of Georgia. I'm going to have to move a little faster here because I'm starting to run out of juice here in the computer, but we'll get through it. South Carolina, a state that Donald Trump carried by 15%, or 14% rather, 54.9 to 40.7 4 years ago over Hillary Clinton. Joe Biden will outperform those numbers without a doubt. Okay, there's an extremely competitive Senate race here between Jamie Harrison and Lindsey Graham. I give Jamie Harrison about a 25% chance to win that race. Okay, so again, the mere fact that there is a Senate candidate in South Carolina that has a chance to win over Lindsey Graham is notable. We've seen this as a state that is willing to elect black senators with Tim Scott, even though he's a Republican. And so I think, again, Joe Biden's popularity in the Old South, his popularity with the African-American community is going to be the difference here. I still think he loses. But again, Donald Trump definitely has not expanded his base in this state. I expect his share to drop to about 52%, and Biden's will climb up to about 44%. And again, I think among that extra 4%, you have a lot of voters who are either just not going to vote, or going to do some write-ins because they don't like either one. 52 to 44%, that is an 8-point win, which is lean for Donald Trump. Tennessee has definitely shifted rightward. Hillary Clinton only got 34.7% of the vote here. Even in Nashville, it wasn't that big a win, whereas Memphis was a little bit bigger for her. I expect that to be closer, but not that much closer, in all honesty. I think that this state has just completely shifted rightward. I would expect Donald Trump to still get about 58, 59% of the vote here, and Joe Biden will creep up. I'll say to about 39% of the vote here. That is an easy win for Donald Trump. Now, North Carolina was a state that Biden and Obama won in 2008, but only by 14,000 votes. They lost it in 2012. That was one of two states that they lost from 2008, the other being Indiana. In 2016, another plurality win for Donald Trump, 49.8% to 46.2%. You might see the almost exact same result in reverse here. Joe Biden is leading in North Carolina. Cal Cunningham, the Senate candidate, is leading. The Democratic Senate candidate is leading in North Carolina. Roy Cooper, the incumbent Democratic governor, is leading in his re-election bid. There are 2 House seats up for grabs in the southern portion of the state that I would expect to flip from red to blue for the Democrats. Okay, all that, to me, again, high turnout amongst the African-American community. Now, this is a state we may not know right away on election night because there's a lot of mail-in ballots coming from this state, so we may not know right away. But I think Joe Biden takes the cake here. I'm going to say 50.1% to about 48.4% for Donald Trump with a little bit of wiggle room built in there. All right, now Kentucky is obviously a pretty safe Republican state. Only 32.7% of the vote went to Hillary Clinton. Just 2 counties in the whole state voted for her. I think Amy McGrath has definitely boosted turnout. There is a Democratic governor here, after all, at the moment, at least, with Andy Beshear. But those were some pretty, special circumstances surrounding Matt Bevin. Again, Donald Trump has not expanded his base, but this is still Kentucky at the end of the day. This is Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul state. I expect Donald Trump to maybe dip down to just 60%, and I think Biden makes up the rest of it. I think it's going to be 60% to about 40% in the state. That's a safe win. West Virginia was the only other state in which Donald Trump carried every single county. 26.2% of the vote was it for Hillary Clinton. It'll be around the same. There's no reason to believe the Democrats are going to outperform those numbers. I have West Virginia also as a safe state. Now, Virginia is always interesting. Hillary carried it with a plurality, 49.8% to 44.4% for Donald Trump. I think Joe Biden definitely gets over 50% because suburban turnout from the D.C. area is extraordinarily high at the moment. You're going to see high numbers in Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Richmond, Alexandria, and Roanoke as well. All that, to me, gives Joe Biden definitely the majority of the vote here. I'm going to say he gets 54% of the vote to Donald Trump's 40% of the vote. I think it's a big win for Joe Biden in this state, as Mark Warner also pushes him a little bit further in his re-election bid. That's a 14% win for a likelihood characterization. Okay, in Illinois, 55 to 38 was what it was last time. It's going to be higher than that, in my opinion, this time. Was one of the states that there was a flip in the governorship from red to blue 4 years ago, as well as, or 2 years ago, I should say. And then in the Senate as well, there was a pickup 4 years ago is what I should say, when Mark Kirk lost with also about 38% of the vote. Very, very safe blue state at the moment. Dick Durbin is going to cruise on his way to re-election very easily. I think Joe Biden gets 60% of the vote here, 60% to about 35%. I think voters are completely alienated by Donald Trump here. It's a safe state. All right, now Indiana. This is obviously Mike Pence country. Only 37.5% of the vote was cast for Hillary Clinton 4 years ago. I don't see much of a reason why it shouldn't remain that way this time. Mike Pence gets it over the top. I'm going to have it around the same margin, which was a 19-point win for Donald Trump. Now in Ohio, basically similar to Iowa from 4 years ago, it was a little closer. Hillary Clinton got 43.2% of the vote here. I think Joe Biden definitely outperforms those numbers, and I think Donald Trump carries this state with a plurality of the vote. I'm going to say he wins about 48.7% of the vote, and Joe Biden comes close with about 46.5% of the vote. Okay, you're going to get some third-party voters, a lot of stay-home Republicans. Again, what is that, 48.7 to 46.5? That is what I have right now between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. That is just a tilt for the Republicans. Maryland. Very, very safe Democratic state. 60% cast their votes for Hillary Clinton. It'll only grow this time around. Let's say even 63% are going to vote for Joe Biden. This is a huge Democratic wave year, as we know. Voters are not pleased with Donald Trump. They never really have been from day one. His approval ratings have been very low, especially in this portion of the country. So this, to me, is another safe characterization. Okay, while we're at D.C., I fully expect Joe Biden will get over 85% of the vote in Washington, D.C. It's possible he could even reach 90%. It is the most lopsided area in the entire country for either party. Okay, I fully expect that Joe Biden will, I'm going to guess 87% of voters in Washington, D.C. vote for Joe Biden. Okay, in Wisconsin, this was a state where the votes or the polling was definitely a little bit off in 2016. Donald Trump didn't even get close to 50%, only 47.2% to 46.5%. We know that the third party voters are less active this time. Howie Hawkins and Joe Jorgensen are not nearly as high profile as Jill Stein and Gary Johnson. The Democrats won 4 big races since 2016 in this state. They carried a state Senate special election in the first year of Trump's term that gave him a seat in that district for the first time in decades. They flipped a governorship here when Tony Evers defeated Scott Walker. They retained a Senate seat here when Tammy Baldwin was able to pretty much cruise to re-election here. And then they also, earlier this year, flipped a Supreme Court seat despite turnout being suppressed when only 180 sites in voting sites in Milwaukee was reduced down to just 5. Polling has been consistent for Biden this entire election season. They have played a lot of attention in this state recently, and a post-ABC News poll just the other day had Biden leading by 17% in the state of Wisconsin. I think he wins and wins with a majority. I'm going to say 51.5% to 47.5% for Donald Trump. That's still a tilt margin for the Democrats. Michigan, the closest of the 3 Rust Belt states from 4 years ago. 47.3% to 47% for Hillary Clinton. A margin of under 11,000 votes. Another state that has been very, very kind to the Democrats since 2016. Gretchen Whitmer, the Democrat, was able to unseat or rather fill that open seat and pick it up for the Democrats, defeating Bill Schuette, the Republican candidate. So that was a pickup for the Democrats, one of 7 on the night that we've talked about at length in the gubernatorial level. They also retained Debbie Stabenow in the Senate when she defeated John James, who is also now trying again against Gary Peters. He will lose that race. This is another state that I fully expect Joe Biden to flip. I have him winning this also with a majority, I think with a higher number as well. I'm going to say 52.7%, okay, right around there, to 46% even for Donald Trump. To me, this is a state that has gotten away from the Republicans. They haven't really been advertising much in the state. They have kind of waved the white flag here. That is officially a lean margin for Joe Biden. Now in Pennsylvania, another extremely tight state, 48.2% to 47.5 4 years ago. Also, like Michigan and Wisconsin, 2 statewide races in the midterms in 2018 that went the Democratic Party's way. Neither of them were close. Bob Casey Jr. easily won re-election. Tom Wolf, the governor, easily won re-election. Tom Wolf in particular, his was called right at closing hour. Okay, turnout is high to this point in this state. We know that. The Democrats have been prioritizing the suburbs of Philadelphia to try to get as much turnout generated as possible. And so that, to me, pretty much solidifies this as a very, very small lead for Donald Trump, or for Joe Biden, I'm sorry. This, of course, was a state, this is the state that Joe Biden is originally from. Scrappy Scranton Joe, that's his name. We get the whole point. I think he will win this. I can't say that he'll get the majority of the vote, though, okay? This is a very close state. We know this. I think he will get 49.5%, okay, right around there, to Donald Trump's 47.8%. This is a very tight state. It's very hard for both candidates to win. Both of them have been prioritizing it extremely hard. Now, Delaware is a state that the Republican Party does better than people think here. There are only 3 counties. They usually win 2 of them, including the Dover area. Donald Trump got 41.7% of the vote here. Okay, people need to remember that. He's not going to get anywhere close to that this time. I think his numbers plummet in this state, down all the way to about 33%. I think Joe Biden really runs up the score here, almost to the 70% point. I'm going to say a final number of about 68% to about 33 or so for Donald Trump. I know the numbers don't exactly add up there, but you get the idea. New Jersey, another state that Donald Trump carried over 40% of the vote here, 55%. That was it for Hillary Clinton. Not close, but 55 is a little disappointing for a Democrat in a presidential election year. Joe Biden will do better than that. We know that. Okay, this is still a blue state at heart, even though it's far, far closer than New York or some of these up here. I expect Joe Biden to get around 56, 57%. Maybe 57 is a little too high. Let's say 56.3 or something like that to Donald Trump's or no, I think you can also expect his numbers to drop under 40%, let's say an even 39%, just because there are plenty of Republican voters in this state that is obviously going to be safe. New York is going to be an absolute wipeout. Okay, Hillary Clinton won easily. She did not reach 60%, but Donald Trump didn't reach 40%. It was 59 even to 36.5. It's definitely going to grow from there. I expect Joe Biden to get 65% of the vote here to Donald Trump's 31%. It'll be kind of similar to what we're seeing in California. Voters cannot stand Donald Trump in this state. We know that. It's only shifted further to the left since 2016. It is not going to be a close state at all. Okay, you're going to see, I think, a lot of traditionally conservative counties are going to vote blue, and Manhattan, Queens, Brooklyn, those areas are just going to be absolutely ridiculous numbers. In fact, in the Bronx as well, that's one of the kind of rivals DC sometimes. I think Joe Biden's going to get over 90% of the vote in some of those areas. Okay, in 2016, not one precinct voted for Donald Trump, and that was with Hillary Clinton on the ballot. Okay, so just imagine what it's going to be like now. That's obviously going to be safe. Vermont, only 30.3% voted for Donald Trump. Here, only one county went his way. It's going to be about the same. I don't expect Joe Biden's numbers to really grow from 56.7%, which is what Hillary got, that much, just because I don't think voters are too concerned about the state to begin with. So it'll be kind of around the same numbers here. Now, New Hampshire was the closest state 4 years ago, 46.8% to 46.5%. Only 3,000 votes was the difference here, less than that. It's not going to be that way this time. It's going to be closer than that, okay? Joe Biden is going to run up the score here. He'll get over 50%. I have him winning with 53% of the vote to Donald Trump's 44% of the vote here. A lot of Republicans in this state, as we know, but the Democrats have the edge here, obviously, in a Democratic wave year. Even in a Republican wave year 4 years ago, the Democrats still managed to win. I have that as a 9-point edge that is going to be still a lean characterization for Joe Biden. Is that lean? Yeah. All right. Finally, in the state of Maine, and those 3 votes up here, I have. Remember, this was another kind of close state. Hillary Clinton only got 47.8% to Donald Trump's 44.9%. Okay, so these 2 votes here will be safe. Whoops. Yep, these 2 will be safe. This one will be safe, and then this will be a tilt for Donald Trump. I think that Joe Biden will get around the same total vote share, probably a little higher, maybe like 48.6, and that'll be that. So there's your map. 307. Oh, wait, I knew something was missing. Okay, Connecticut, another state that I can expect Joe Biden to kind of run up the numbers here. Republicans can get a good final vote share sometimes here, but not this time. I think Joe Biden gets over 60% here, 61% to Donald Trump's 35%. Ride-ins will make up the rest. Rhode Island is kind of similar. I would expect Biden to do extremely well here, though. 58% to 35% again here. I think Massachusetts is going to be super lopsided. I'm going to go 66% to 32% for Donald Trump. There's your map finally there. 329 to 209, that being the final map, with flips in Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, comprising all 50 states. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please comment down the suggestions below. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. We're so close, just 3 days away. It's obviously very exciting, but here's your final map as things stand at the moment. So stay tuned for a Senate election prediction video. And again, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in November.